is Seth with Quilting on a Budget. So we're going to do a little impromptu live. Okay, so as always, until I find a better way to do this, I need to come over here and then I'm going to watch myself like you guys are. So that way I can tell what it is I'm doing and I can see your comments and all that jazz. Okay, so I have got a little sister. Well, I say little, she's about 27, 28 now. And so happy to say that she is pregnant. She's going to have a little baby girl. I think they've decided on the name Isley. But what kind of makes it special is Isley is a rainbow baby. So for anyone that doesn't know what a rainbow baby is, unfortunately my sister twice now has been pregnant and twice now has miscarried. This time, thank God, she is super pregnant, very healthy. The pregnancy is going extremely well. And it looks like we're going to have a baby before too long. So, Uncle Seth, being awesome and quilting, we are going to turn these beautiful Stonehenge, what do they call it? Stonehenge Gradiations. And we're going to turn these into a pretty little baby quilt. So, this is about as basic beginner as you can get. I'm just laying these out. And I'm taking one. Now, Moda is the one that came up with jelly roll and all that. Some people call them roly-polies. Some people call them jelly rolls. These guys just call them strips, you know. So this is the same thing as if you had a round jelly roll. Northcott, which is who makes Stonehenge, they just put them in 2 rows and do it that way. So all I'm doing, this is family night in the studio, by the way. So I've got Miss Shaylin behind the camera. You guys have seen her before. And then I've got my little one, my littlest little one. Do you want to come say hi?
Over here. Go by Daddy.
Come over here. Come around here so the camera can see you. So I've got my littlest little one in here too. So we're hanging out. Look, this is what people are seeing. Excuse you. Dinner was good, huh? So you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. Okay. That's little Miss McKenna. She's 4. A total ball of energy. But anyway, getting back to this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to leave them in this same order. And I'm just going to sew strip after strip after strip. It can't be much simpler. Now, it may not be the most amazing to watch, but for anybody that's new, I want you to see that it doesn't take a huge, crazy design to make a nice little quilt. Now, if you'll notice, I've taken my walking foot off, okay, because I have what they call a hinged 1/4 inch foot with a guide. So all that means is my fabric will be here, and there's a little guide, and it'll move up and down. So I can put my fabric right up against it, and it'll keep it nice and straight. Now, this Juki, I love my Juki. You can rock and roll with this thing. So I want to put my 1/4 inch foot on there. That way I can line these things up, and we are going to rip right through them. I finally found my machine oil. So we are freshly oiled and ready to go. Now, if you hear the difference...
That sounds good. Like really good.
It's pretty quiet. Now, when I had that walking foot on there, that walking foot is kind of clunky.
It's loud.
Now, all I'm doing is I'm taking these and it's no harder than that. Boom. Now, I'll pull these open a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about pressing this right now, and I'll tell you why. If I was sewing something across this seam I just made, then I would press it because I'd want it open. But each of these strips is just going to be touching this other edge. So at the end of it, then I'll pull it all open, and then I'll give it all a press. But right now, I'm not worried about it. And I'm going to make sure, hold on baby, I keep taking from this same pile because I want the colors to stay the same. Okay? So we're going to do our strips this way because it's only a baby quilt. So these are about 44 wide, and I'm going to do about 25 strips, okay? Because these are 2.5 inches, so they'll finish at 2. So if I do 25 strips down, that'll give me 50 inches long, and that's plenty.
Can I sit with you?
No, go get another chair and sit it right there. You can get that one from out there.
Oh.
Okay, so we're doing things a little different tonight. The girls wanted to come hang out with Dad. Dad had the night off. So, let's do it. I hope you guys don't mind. I hope it's not too distracting. But, you know, sometimes Dad's got to hang out with his baby girls and make a quilt at the same time. Okay. Try not to be too loud. Because if people are watching on their headphones or tablets or whatever, you don't want to be super loud.
Ow.
McKenna, if you're going to be in here, don't be screaming. Okay?
I'm saying we.
I know, but we want to say we quiet. Alright, so we're a little rowdy in the studio tonight. Okay, so now, I've also heard too, some people say when you're doing your strips that you want to sew them different ways. I've never personally had the issue of my strips kind of bowing, but I think that's in how you sew. I tend to let the fabric pull itself. I don't tend to put a lot of resistance on the fabric when I'm sewing. I keep it lined up and I just let it do its thing, and so far I haven't had any bowing going on. So that's always one tip that I hear, is you need to switch directions, but I personally do not do that. So that might be something, if you're sewing strips and they start bowing or looking weird, then start switching ends. The only thing I do is I keep moving it over, and you want to stay lined up.
It's getting long.
Now, you don't have to...
Let's get them on the floor.
You obviously want to try and line up your ends as best as possible, but, you know, they're not going to be laser straight, and that's no big deal, because we're going to press this, we're going to cut these off, and, yeah.
You've already got 3 down. This is an easy project.
Pretty easy.
And it's super cute.
I hope so. It's going to be for a little baby girl, so we'll see.
No.
Now, I'm just making the first process here. We're going to cut these, and we're going to insert some white. Oh, had a small heart attack. I thought I was sewing wrong
Yes,
sides
guys.
together.
And he is a
Hey,
good
shh,
cooker.
shh. I'm glad you think I'm a good cooker, but watch out. Okay.
I want to be in a picture.
Alright. So, as you can see, this is going fairly quick. And then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to cut probably 8 inches off on either side. And then I'll flip the order around, and I'm going to put a white strip on either side.
That's what we want.
So we're getting there. It's going to be very colorful. And I may end up, we'll see how it goes. We may cut this up a little more and add some more white strips as it goes, but we'll see.
White strips?
Uh-huh. So what I mean by that, because if she doesn't understand, maybe you guys won't understand.
I don't.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm building this, hold that. I'm building this kind of like blinds. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and we're going to go all the way down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in about right here, and I'm going to cut that. And then I'm going to have a white jelly roll strip, like that. And then we'll probably flip this upside down, just to where the order changes.
Okay, that sounds cool.
I think that'll work out right. So, now with these strips, they're 2.5 inches wide, but once you sew them, you will get a finished 2-inch strip.
Nope.
So, lengthwise, they're like 42. It doesn't say. Most fabric is between 42 and 44 inches. So we're going to have about a 40 wide, and I'm going to do about a 50 long. That is plenty big for a little baby crawl around little quilt. We're not quite doing like the crib size, but I just want something for mom to be able to put on the floor or cover up the baby, you know, something like that.
See that, Dad?
You like that?
Yeah.
You like all the colors?
Yeah. Looks like a blanket to cover up. But
That's what we're making. We're making Aunt Jerry's baby a blanket. What do you think about that?
yeah. I was a baby.
Yep, Daddy's made you a bunch of baby blankets, hasn't he?
Yeah, we have so much blankets at home, guys. Having a quilter is pretty awesome. Yes, guys, and he's a good dad because he quilts any quilting.
Oh, man, look at that.
So big and short.
They're doing some good sucking up. I'm kind of liking it.
Me too.
I'm a good quilter. I'm a good cook. I'm a good daddy.
Yes, you are.
Yeah? All right.
Why do you need your tablet and your phone?
Because I'm filming and I'm showing people how to make this quilt, and that's what they see on theirs.
Nancy, I think that's her name. She has a question.
Read it to me.
I think it says, what machine do you have?
What machine do I have? This is a Juki TL2000Q.
Mm-hmm.
So in the grand scheme of Jukis, they're up to like a Haruka right now, and then you go back one model, and it's a 2010, and then you go back one more model, and you get the TL2000. Now, this thing is a total work horse, okay? It's all metal. It is solid. This is not a tote around to class machine. This thing's like 35 pounds or something crazy. It is solid. I chose this because it's a straight stitch only. I don't normally, well, when I first got this, I didn't really have the need for a bunch of fancy stitching. I didn't do a lot of applique. Since my quilting has evolved, now I'm getting into more applique. But this is a solid straight stitch, and what I love about Juki is I've had an old Kenmore from like 40s. Not Kenmore, sorry, Montgomery Ward. And I really loved how the stitches were exactly up in a nice sharp crisp and a nice sharp drop. And when you're looking at them from the top, they kind of overlapped, but they were super straight. This machine quilts just like that. It gets really, really pretty, really straight stitches. It's not like some of the newer ones where the needle kind of does a circular motion as it hops. This goes up, over, down. I love it. You can find these probably, I don't know, this was a little over $600 when I bought it.
Uh-oh.
Totally worth it. Keep it oiled, keep it clean, and this will be like a 30-year machine.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, guys, and he's a good inspector.
Hush, girl.
Okay. Down the one.
I think someone asked, Seth, are you selling the strips?
Yeah.
No, I am not selling these because I'm not a wholesaler or whatever. I work with some people.
This is so cool.
Hush for a minute, babe. So I work with a couple people, and I've mentioned them before, like Martelly. I'm one of their brand ambassadors and stuff like that. I don't specifically sell Martelly, but I have like a referral link, so they know if you use my link and go shop with them that I've sent you there. But I don't specifically like stock fabric and stuff like that. Now, I've thought about getting into that maybe, and actually having like an online store or Amazon, stuff like that, because when I'm doing something, if you guys like it, I want you to be able to do it as well. And I think I got some things in the works where we might be able to make that happen. Where, hey, calm down, girl. I can't talk and you talk. I think I got some things working to where that might be a possibility, because I don't want to make something and you guys be like, oh, that's cool. And then when you say, where can I find mine? And then I have to say, I don't know. So we're trying to work on that.
Yeah.
That's what these different little partnerships that I've started developing, that's the purpose of them.
Aunt Brandy said love the colors.
Well, thank you, Aunt Brandy.
Thank you, Aunt Brandy. Love you. Love you.
Hey, don't scream. Remember, we're quiet. We're not loud. Okay, so this is starting to turn pretty. We're halfway through. So, without measuring, okay, this is a rough estimate. How long am I so far? Remember, these are 2.5. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. We're at 16 inches. Okay?
Is a great deal.
So, we're getting there.
Oh, someone said your girls are beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. As anyone knows with kids, most days, you just absolutely love having them around, and other days you want to go out for bread and never come back. With school being out, oh baby, it's a mixture. But for the most part, they're getting along. And I appreciate everybody sticking. Hey, shh. Remember, if we're coming up here, we can't be all crazy and loud.
You want to watch a show
Okay.
on Sissy's phone? Come here.
So I appreciate you guys sticking around and letting the kids join us. They enjoy coming up and hanging out with Dad, getting out of the house. But I had a night off and I was cleaning my studio and found these. And I thought, you know what, this would be something pretty for my little niece that's on the way.
I got her content. She's playing
The
Roblox.
more I'm looking at this and the more this is coming together, this almost looks like it could be like coral or something like that. It might be cool, or it might be fun to like applique some like fish or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a
Kind
good
of cool
idea. Yeah.
So now we've got 3 greens in a row.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to kind of mix them because we already got a bunch of green here.
Mm-hmm.
This is really purple over here. So we're going to mix these. And I may end up cutting this up more and taking them and flip-flopping them.
Someone
I don't know
asked.
yet.
Someone asked how
Read
many.
their name. What's their name? Can you pronounce it?
No.
Spell it.
Darlene.
Darlene.
Darlene asked, how many quilts have you made for your kiddos?
A ton.
Yes.
a ton, to sometimes my wife's despair. But you know what? I love the fact that my kids can cover up at night and they're wrapped up in something that I made for them. And with the little one being 4, you know, she's totally into her blankies and all that. And I love that she cherishes the quilts I made. And even Shaylin, being older, she's 10.
I sleep with them still.
And, you know, even she's really possessive over the ones I've made her. So I like that. I always remember growing up, you know, I love the quilts that Mom made. And it's kind of like that, only in this house, Mom's not making them, Dad is.
But dudes can quilt too.
Yep. Okay, so I got a little sideways.
Uh-oh.
But luckily,
We have a tool to fix that, huh?
get old Jack the Ripper out. And poke a couple of these and they'll come out.
Linda.
Linda?
Linda asks, I come in late, I think she wants the name of the jelly roll you are
I
using.
came in late. What's the name of the jelly roll you are using? So these are Stonehenge, and it's called Gradiations. And Stonehenge is a collection by Northcott Fabrics.
Yes.
I like Stonehenge. They're kind of a blotchier fabric. If you like Moda Grunge, you will probably like Stonehenge. Let's see, where is that? I've got a quilt made out of different Stonehenge. I think it's in that basket over there, maybe. Alright. Back on track. Now we got
Is she
paint.
crying?
I don't know. Go check on her. Okay. Uh-oh. Sounds like the phone died. Okay, so... veered off a little bit. So that's not a big deal. We'll flip it over. And we'll patch this little section. There we go. No big deal. Alright, now every now and then hold these up to make sure that you haven't got any spots where you've missed or where you've got little holes. Now with this getting big like this, I'm going to set this aside and then we're going to start another section. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this.
She was fine. The kitty accidentally scratched her.
Uh-oh. So we're going to mix this up. Do-do-do.
Any comments you guys want to ask?
You guys got any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
So, now this is one of those really good, like, fundamental basics quilts. It seems very repetitive. It seems, this is one of those where, like, you just want to make something and you don't want to have to think a lot. This is that perfect quilt, but this is a very good skill builder. One of the most important skill to have quilting is to be able to sew straight and sew consistently with whatever. 1/4 inch is the most common. But whatever seam allowance you're using, you need to be able to sew that same seam allowance consistently. And doing these little jelly roll quilts, for one, you can do 1,000 things with a jelly roll. But two, doing these little strip quilts like this, they're quick, you can be creative, but they're really good skill builders. I mean, you know, you're going to put in, you know, what's going to seem like miles worth of thread going in a straight line here. But the more you do this, the better your piecing will become. So, I'm just lining it up and ripping through here. This is when you look at a machine and it says 1,000 stitches per minute, 1,500, 800, this is where that comes in. So piecing a little bit, small pieces, that doesn't really matter because you're not going to go full throttle. But doing something long and straight, you know, it's good to be able to have a little bit of speed on your machine. And this particular Juki here does 1,500 stitches a minute. I don't ever sew that fast because it'll just whip it, you know, you'll just whip right through it. No, actually throw that away.
Okay. What is that?
It was sewing machine oil, but I put it in another bottle. Oh, that's what I was going to show you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome for reminding.
So this right here, you can find these online. You can find them on Amazon. They're little oil bottles, and this is metal, okay? That's a metal tip. It has a little screw cap. Okay, and it's a tiny little drip hole. These are great. Alright, whatever kind of machine oil you use, put it in one of these, tighten it down. It's gonna, you don't want to lay it on its side. It's still, I haven't ever got it to like, you know, if you lay it on its side for a while, you're gonna come back and your bottle will be wet. But it's great for oiling all these oil spots. These Jukis are great machines, but they're thirsty little buggers. And about every other time I use one, I oil it. So I always keep my oil handy.
You have a question.
Read it.
Julie.
Julie.
Okay, I knew that. Julie says,
What did I just do? I run out of bobbin and not realize it.
what is the funnel size going to be?
Well, Julie, we are winging it. Okay, if you've watched me before, I come in with a loose plan, and it's pretty fluid. But what I am shooting for, I know I got to finish bobbing. What I am shooting for is we're going to do about 44 wide, maybe closer to like 48 by the time I add some strips in. And then I want to do roughly like 50 long. So it'll be a pretty good sized little quilt, I think. So, well, you know what? I thought I had some rolled, but here's a little trick. So I'm going to cut this thread here. I'm not going to totally unthread my machine. Actually, I don't even have to do that. I'm going to move this one over here. Boom. I'm going to throw this bad boy right here. This is the other thing I like about this machine. Because if you're like I am, well, sometimes you forget to pre-wind bobbins ahead of time.
You have another question.
Go ahead.
Linda. Linda asked, how often do you do tutorials? Oh my gosh.
Linda, that kind of depends. So, my normal job, I'm a truck driver. My schedule fluctuates. I try to do them on the weekends normally, but since I had some time tonight and I felt like quilting, I thought I'd let you guys kind of just peek into the studio. Now, when I'm doing these lives, you're seeing what I'm doing in real time. It's not like when you go to a YouTube video and it's 15 minutes and they go one step, and you've got a quilt completed in 10 minutes. Now, I'm working on doing more stuff like that, but I like doing these lives. I like hanging out. I like letting people watch what I'm doing. I like, if I make a mistake, you guys see it. You know, point in case right here. I totally forgot to pre-wind some bobbins, okay?
It happens.
It happens. So, I want the new quilters to be able to see the process. You know, if I make a mistake, I want people to see that they're not the only ones making that mistake. And then when I fix it, then you'll be like, hey, okay, I've made that mistake before, that's how he fixed it. So, that's kind of a long answer, I guess, but I don't really plan them out. I'm not like a every Tuesday at 3 o'clock kind of person, just because I've got 2 kids and a truck driving job and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could be more scheduled, but the nice thing is you guys can always watch these later. Watch them on repeat.
Oh, really?
There we go. I don't know. This one looks a little funky.
Uh-oh. Is it like different colors?
Nah. Alright.
You have so much stuff on your shirt.
Always make sure your bobbins look like they're wound nice and pretty, because if they look like a bunch of threads come off and then you rewound them where they didn't wind right, it's not going to sew right. They should look nice and pretty like you got them from the store that way. Okay, so
Any more questions you guys want to ask?
enough of that. We'll slap this bad boy in there and we will get going.
Okay.
Now,
Back on
the cool thing
track.
about this Juki, you don't have to pull your bobbin thread to the top. I normally bring the tail out some, just because sometimes it has a tendency to suck that tail in. But yeah, you just change your bobbin and you rock and roll with it, and that's what I like. And I'm not saying any other machine isn't great. It's just, I went from a Singer that I used forever, and then as my quilting, like what I like to say, my quilting matured, my taste in tools and stuff like that matured as well, because, well, some of the cheaper ones, I quilt too much, and I'll wear out some of the cheaper stuff. But that's not to say that everyone needs a $600, $1,000, $2,000 sewing machine, because for years I used a $99 Brothers and I made over 30 quilts, excuse me, on just a $99 Brothers sewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to take care of whatever machine and whatever tools you have.
I have a question.
What?
When you're sewing your strips, like, are you gonna keep on? How many do you put in a strip?
Well,
and then
I just took that out of the way because it's wide and I don't want to keep fussing with it. So what I'll do is I'll make another section like this and then I'll sew the 2 sections together.
Okay.
But for the meantime, just so I'm not fighting the big old swatch of fabric, we just set it to the side.
Cool.
Now what I'm doing that you can't probably see because it's under the table is as these are being pulled, I'm not letting the strip roll because I don't want it to tug real tight. So as it's pulling, I'm kind of lifting it up. I want the feed dogs to be able to pull this without having too much issue, because that's where you start getting that cupping, because your stitches start getting tight and your fabric starts getting pulled. So I'm picking it up and pretty much letting it lay on the bed of the machine and just letting the feed dogs run it through evenly. And if you do that, then you shouldn't have too much issues with your strips being wonky and wanting to bow. Now, as you can see, I'm still starting at the top every time. So now I'm kind of switching just to get a variety, so we don't have a bunch of purples in one spot and a bunch of greens. Now we got a couple more of these to do, and then I'll start adding that white in, and that'll really start changing the look of it.
Okay.
Now this 1/4 inch foot with the guide really makes it nice, man. You don't have to think too much. You just don't want to cram the fabric up against the guide. You want it just to rest up against it. And this machine will suck it on in there, and you let it rock and roll. I'm gonna have to clean this thing out after this though. These pre-cuts, they try to do what they can do to cut down on the fraying and the raveling. That's why most of these are pinked. Pinking is the edges look like they're points. That's a pinked edge. And that cuts down on raveling, but they have a lot of dust, so I'll have to clean this machine out when I'm done with this.
This is not a question, but it's a comment. It's from a little earlier ago when we missed it, but this is from Chris, and he said, I absolutely love my Juki. Just got the new 18 QVP.
Ooh, the Haruka.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, how do you like that? I have been eyeballing one of those. So I put out a post earlier that I've got some things working, and the only clue I gave was a picture of the Juki Junkies logo. So there's a little clue. We may be having some things going on. I like to work with people that I like. So what I mean by that is somebody, for one, I'm not big enough that companies like reach out to me and beg me to use their stuff. That's not how this works. But if I like a product, sometimes I will reach out to a company, say, hey, if you send me some of your stuff, I'll use it on my live and I'll introduce it to my people, you guys. But I won't just, I won't say I like something for the sake of somebody gave me something for free. 'Cause if it's junk, it's junk, and I'm not going to use it. You'll see, I use my Juki all the time. I love it. You'll see I've got my Martelly stuff. I love it. It works. Martelly's a little bit more expensive than your Fiskars and your Ulfa, but in my opinion, it's definitely worth the investment. It's one of those things, more money in the beginning is going to save you money in the long run. Also, if you got any kind of wrist, carpal tunnel, any of that, these little funky cutters right here that you hold like this, you hold it kind of like a handlebar on a motorcycle, and you cut. I've cut all day long with those, and you don't feel it. Stop putting your fingers in front of the camera lens, girl.
I'm not. They can't see. I'm just...
Yeah, they can. I just can't. So as you start out quilting, there's always the kind of conundrum, whatever you want to call it, the interpersonal argument to have with yourself. Do I spend the extra money? Do I get more expensive? I don't know if I'm going to enjoy doing that, or do I go cheap, see if I like it, and buy the more expensive later? Now, I've made that mistake with more than just quilting. I also fly drones and do like photography with drones. And I did that same exact thing. Let me see if I like it. I'm going to buy the cheaper one. Within 6 months, I wished I had spent the money on the more expensive one. Same thing with this. I could have got this machine. I could have got the 2010 for a couple $100 more. But I'd never used a Juki, and I didn't know anything about them. And now I wish I did, because the 2010 has speed control and a couple of other little nice features. But this 2000 is great. It's got needle up down. It's got an automatic thread cutter, either by pushing it on the machine or on my foot pedal, one-way sews, hit the other way. It'll cut my thread. It comes with some pretty good feet. You know, this has been a great workhorse. I'm not afraid to sew on this thing all day long. And when I have to sew thick things, you know, 6 or 8 layers of fabric, as long as I have the right needle in, this thing will do it no problem, and I don't question it. I don't know that I would do that on some of the other machines.
You have a question.
Go ahead.
Jamie. Jane?
Janie. Janie.
Oh, Janie asked, how often do you replace your needles?
Well, that's kind of a open question, because how much are you sewing? What are you sewing? What kind of needle do you have in your machine? Those are all questions that are going to determine how often. With me, every couple of bobbins, or maybe I'll get a whole project, but I use good needles. Juki likes Oregon, and I've had really good luck with Schmetz. So right now I'm using a Schmetz top stitch, just regular good top stitch. But I've used chrome-plated needles. I like those. Those things stay sharp forever. Oregon needles stay sharp for a while, too. So, for me personally, I do it, you know, if I'm making a big queen-size quilt, I may change the needle a couple times during that. For a project like this that's not very big, I'll get, you know, I'll get 2 or 3 baby blankets out of a needle. The longer you have your machine, you'll be able to hear, almost be able to feel, like your machine's not nice and smooth anymore. You'll feel it almost kind of like poke instead of glide. Because the way the sewing machine needle works is it's not punching through the fabric. It's going in between the threads. And once your needle gets dull, it doesn't slide so easy anymore. So, I hope that answers. I know it's kind of a long-winded question, but everybody's quilting habits kind of dictates, you know, how often do you clean your machine, how often do you oil, how often do you change needles. I might quilt 30,000 stitches, and in the same time period, you might do 15. So you won't have to maintain or change as often as I will.
You have another question?
Go ahead.
From Helen.
Helena?
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not coming up on...
Your tablet? Yeah, I was wondering that.
There we go. Oh, Helen Bates. Can you show the foot, please? Give me just a minute and I will.
Okay. Wait, what's your foot again?
The foot right here.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want to take the camera out of the tripod and then it'll be all jumbly and all that jazz. But I will show you in just a little bit. Well, here, why don't we do this, Shaylin?
Yeah. Do you want me to show them?
Yeah. Do like this, and do like this, and don't put it super close. Just, there you go. Go show.
Like that? Okay.
Yeah, it'll come on real easy.
Okay, so this is the foot.
Give it a chance to...
Focus, it's focusing.
Okay. Now, do you see that little hinge right there? Tilt it down. There you go. Perfect. Keep it just like that. Facing forward. So that part that you're looking at on the screen on the right, that part pivots up and down. And that is the guide that the fabric sits up against. Alright, bring it here. Let me slap this back on so I can get sewing some more. Okay, so yeah, that is called a hinged 1/4 inch guide foot.
Mm-hmm.
And Juki makes a bunch of different feet because these are considered semi-industrial. So I've sewn leather with this, not like I'm making belts. Let's not be crazy. But I've sewn garment leather, I've sewn vinyl, I've sewn literally 8 layers of denim blue jeans. I mean, these things are bad mamma jammas. So, alright, I'm going to do one more strip, and then we're going to throw these sections together, and then we're going to slap them on the cutting board, and we're going to start whacking these apart. And for everybody that has joined and hung around, I appreciate it. Like I said, these aren't little 15-minute tutorials. You know, I mean, you're watching me as I'm doing it. I'm going to start making actual edited tutorials and put them on the Facebook page. And when I can remember to do it, I save these, excuse me, not on Facebook, on YouTube. When I can remember, I save these and put them on YouTube as well. So, okay. Now, let's see. Do we go this?
We have another question.
Go ahead,
This
caller.
is from DEBBIE. She said,
Well, that sounds like, sound it out, girl.
Debbie?
There you go. Don't be afraid to try. We're going to get a spelling lesson in tonight, by God. All right, Miss Debbie, read your question, dear.
She said, do you quilt your own quilts?
I do, sometimes. Now, here's the deal. Something like this baby quilt, I'll go ahead and quilt it, because I'm just probably going to do some simple straight line quilting. Now, if I'm going to take the time and I'm going to make a really pretty quilt, and it's going to be a nice heirloom quilt, something I want to keep around, then you've already spent a bunch of money on fabric. You've already spent a bunch of time making it. Why skimp on the quilting? Okay? That's personally just how I look at it. Now, different quilts need different kind of attention. So, I put it like this. Is this just going to be something that you're going to throw on your couch and all you want is a quilt to keep warm? Okay, so maybe you just do straight line stitching and it's fine. Is this something that you want to hang around and it's going to be in the family a while? Maybe you want to get it quilted because the more quilting that you have done, the more it locks all your layers together, and it'll last longer. It's a more solid construction. So, to answer that, do you quilt your own quilts? Yes and no, not always. Now, if you want a good long arm quilter, there is a lady, she is in our group, Holly Hurd, Holly, Holly, Hurd, Hurd. Her father has Quilting by David. He is also on Instagram. He does beautiful work. She does beautiful work. She's the one that quilted the Project Hugs for Dave. So you can actually mail her your quilt top. She will quilt it. She does binding. She does the whole everything. You send her a top and a back, and she'll put the whole daggone thing together and ship it right back to you. She does fantastic work. It's edge to edge. She doesn't do custom. Custom, if you don't know who Julia Quiltoff is, she does beautiful, beautiful custom quilting. And it's the same way. You can ship her your quilt top. She'll work her magic on it, and she'll throw it back in the mail to you. So those are some options. Or check around. You might have some local quilters around you. The best thing to do is go to a quilt shop and say, hey, do you guys know anyone that does long arm quilting? That's how I found out. I found David, actually, because I needed something quilted, and everyone said 6 months. And I'm like, ooh, I need this done in a month. So Holly and David Hurd. They're very quick. They're very good.
This is not a question, but it's like a really sweet comment. Look on your tablet and you should see one that has 2 thumbs up on it.
Let's see where we're at.
Right there.
Informative. I'm enjoying it. Thank you, Patsy. Peter, thank you, dude. Thanks. It's only for your machine, or will it fit any other machine? Okay, so the foot I'm using is for a Juki, but do they make those feet for other machines? Some I'm sure they do. You'll just have to check. I don't know what kind of machine you have. Now, there's 2 types of machine, a low shank and a high shank. That's generally the difference. So if you have a Singer, for instance, check with your quilt store, check with Joann's. I hate to say Amazon. I know Amazon has everything, but man, support your local quilt shop, support your local dealer. So figure out whatever machine you have, and then search for that. 1/4 inch foot with a guide for a X machine. So here's what we got. That, and then I want to see, I don't want to slap purple next to purple. I kind of like this bright blue on the screen. We'll go this way. We might be long enough, guys.
So far it's looking really pretty.
We might be long enough.
Do you want me to hold?
Hold on. Let me whip this together. All right, final stitch, and I think we're going to see where we're at. Now, this is why I did this in sections, because now it's getting bulky,
And really long.
and I got to keep fudging with it. And I want the fabric to glide through this machine as the machine wants to pull it. Because once you start getting bunching and the machine can't feed through naturally, that's when you get the puckering and your material starts getting cupped. So.
Jane Lewis, I think. See her on there?
Yeah, let's do that. There we go. Thank you for sharing from upstate New York. I watch a guy on YouTube named Andrew Camerata.
It's beautiful up there.
And I think he's from upstate somewhere. My God, that is beautiful country up there. When you say New York, everyone thinks of like congestion and New York City and all that. New York is beautiful. I've driven from there, through there, up in the Finger Lakes region, and man, what beautiful country. Beautiful, beautiful. So is up in Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, keep staying even. All right.
I think it's kind of hard to pronounce his name. S-U-E. Sue, he said, what's the name of the jelly roll you are using?
I am using, and it doesn't really have a picture, or I would show you.
Do you want me to show you?
But it is Stonehenge Gradiations, and it's from Northcott. So Northcott.com. I'm not affiliated with Northcott in any way. I just happened to see this jelly roll, and I liked it. So, here's what we have. So, I think I'm going to call that a good size. What do we got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16.
It's kind of like
6, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42. So about 44 wide is what we're at. And I think that's a good size for a baby quilt.
it's kind of uneven.
So, well, yeah, we got to trim it.
Oh.
Because the crazy thing with strips, see how that looks
Yeah.
a lot closer than the other side?
Yep.
So we'll slap them together.
Trim them.
And this is our even straight. So I'll show you guys too, because she brought that up. So fold it in half, and then you'll make a straight cut. And that's how we're going to do that.
Okay.
So, that's going to be the next step.
Sure.
Oy. So, I guess that's it. I sewed a bunch of strips together.
Thank you so much.
Now, if you'll bear with me, there we go. We'll move things around just a little bit because I need my big cutting area.
Okay.
And then, well, actually, no, I gotta press this bad boy first, so. Alright, so we're not gonna cut because I gotta press, I gotta get my iron out. I got a wool pressing mat, but it's not quite big enough. Now, speaking of, turn the camera just a little bit that way.
Wait.
Pick up the tripod. Turn it just a little bit that way so they can see the yellow cutting mat.
Yep, they can.
Okay, so this is a thing where this is an explanation on, do I go cheap or do I go expensive? This cutting mat right here is a perfect example. Okay, it's about $100. Crazy, right? $100 cutting mat. Whoa. Now, the difference is, this thing is super thick and durable. Move that iron, babe. It's a lot thicker. Walk behind the camera, don't walk in front. It's a lot thicker than, say, my Fiskars. Okay, it's two-sided, so if you like the purple and the green, you can do that. I like the yellow and the blue personally.
Smells super good.
But what makes this different than a Fiskars mat? Why is this worth the $100? If I want to throw a piece of fabric over this cutting mat, I can actually iron on my cutting mat. I can't do that on a Fiskars, okay? You cannot take and set your iron directly on this, but as long as there's at least one layer of fabric, I like to be safe. I'll put like 2 layers of flannel down or something like that, and then I can actually iron right on my ironing or on my cutting mat. That's the nice thing about Martelly. Not to go off on a tangent about them, their stuff's a little more expensive, but in the long run, you get what you pay for, okay? I started out using Fiskars Cutters. Those are great, but man, I went through I don't know how many blades, okay? They're great, they're economy. I don't knock anybody that uses them because I used them forever. But now that I've found these little funky looking doodads, they're great to hold, okay? They don't hurt your wrist. And up until I started cutting leather with mine, like belt leather that you would make a belt out of, I never had a problem with my blade going dull. And I could still keep cutting leather with the blade I had, but I pushed too hard and I kind of bent the edge so it would leave skips in the fabric. So as your quilting, I like to say your quilting matures, you're going to find that you enjoy better quality tools. And that goes with any craftsman, any craft that you do. In the beginning, you start out with what you can afford, you figure out what you like and what you need, and then as your skills progress, your tools also progress. So there's that. This other thing here, to touch on this is called the Martelly Roundabout. This thing is awesome. This puts a Fiskars rotating cutting mat to shame. Fiskars, I bought one, I've used it twice, it was so aggravating. This is actually a ball bearing deal, and it's flat, it spins. Just like a Lazy Susan, you have your pressing surface, then you have your cutting surface, and it spins. And if you got half square triangles, or you're squaring anything up, this thing is a lifesaver. It's called the Roundabout. Okay, so we go through some comments.
Oh my
Ooh,
gosh.
Good Lord, did you see that?
Yeah, that was like, oh my gosh.
That cop car came zooming past us so fast you almost couldn't even see the car. I just seen the lights.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys heard it because it was loud.
Alright, what is the final size going to be? I think we covered that. Tutorials.
Covered that.
You're an artist. Karen, thank you. How often do you replace your needles? We covered that. Great to see you again, Seth. Thank you, Peter. Sioux City, Iowa. Can
Helen?
you show me the foot? We covered that. So if I missed anything, I normally take a few minutes after I'm done and I'll go through the comments and kind of answer some stuff. But anyway, I think that's it, y'all. I think I'm going to call it good there. What?
Helen, I think that's her name. She said, thanks for sharing your information from Australia.
Where are you seeing that?
No.
Because it is awfully late in Australia right now. Or it might be awfully early, I don't know. Anyway.
Wait, it was almost...
Okay, so that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for letting my kiddos be a part of tonight. Kind of a family night. Thank God the 4-year-old made an appearance and made her appearance out. Woo, that worked out a little better than I thought. So we got Miss Shaylin behind the camera. Come over here and say hey and bye.
Hi, guys.
She's our studio assistant. And I think that's it for tonight, guys. So the next time you see me, I'm going to go ahead and press our strips, because now, so making this, I didn't have to worry about pressing it, right? Because I'm not going across the seams. But now that I want to cut, I need to flatten everything out and get this nice and crispy, because I'm going to be cutting across the seams, so you want your seams flat. So I think, and give me your ideas, I'll wait to do this until I get some answers. So, here's my idea. I'm thinking about obviously square it up, and then do a cut right here, and put a white strip all the way down, and then I'll take the outside and flip it, and then have a big inside section and the same thing on here, so 2 white strips. Or I can cut it like 6 inches wide, like so, and then have a couple of white strips in the center, and each of these that I do, I'll flip back and forth, so then it'll be really colorful. So, what do you guys think? 2 strips and have the center? Or should I cut it into a couple pieces and have more than one? Reach behind you. Hand me like 2 of them white strips back there.
White strips?
The white jelly roll strips.
Okay, I see them. You need 2 of them?
Come on, come on.
I don't want to knock over stuff.
Give me one more. This is only one folded in half.
Okay.
There we go. So, we'll look something a little. Put that down there. There you go. Now you're getting the idea. We'll look a little something like that.
That looks like a present or something.
But of course, you know, it'll be even. I just slapped them on there. I kind of like that. I think that'll be pretty. Alright. Okay, y'all. Enough rambling. Sorry. You know, like I said, you're with me real time. As the wheels are turning or maybe the gears are burning, you're with me. So thanks for tuning in. I think I'm going to get off here because I got some pressing. You know, how fun is watching somebody iron? You guys have seen it all. Now I'm absolutely covered. Maybe black wasn't the right choice for Jelly Roll shirt, but anyway, that's it. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for having fun. Once again, this is Seth, Quilting on a Budget, and I'm out of here. So y'all enjoy your evening. If you got any more questions, comments, whatever, leave them below. I will make sure to answer them. If you happen to be on YouTube, check us out at Quilting on a Budget, and Instagram as well, Quilting on a Budget. So thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, have a good one.
Ready?
Click her off, baby.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.